investigate the continued importation of hazardous petroleum products and dumping of substandard diesel into Nigeria. My name is Asukwe Ekpenyong, Senator representing Cross River South. The Senate notes with deep concern the continued importation of hazardous products, petroleum products, and dumping of substandard diesel into Nigeria. It observes that on the 16th of June 2024, it was credibly reported that 12 diesel cargoes conveying a total of 660 KT of diesel was exported by foreign refineries to offshore Lome, Togo, for further distribution to West African markets, mainly Nigeria. Also notes that the quality of the state diesel is below the Nigerian standard in terms of flash and sulfur levels. However, in spite of the substandard nature of the diesel, it has found its way into the Nigerian market as a truck on MT Carlos, which arrived Lome on the 16th of June, which immediately did a ship-to-ship transfer to DVMT Matriarch Triumph, and then proceeded to discharge into Matriarch Jetty.
Senator, please start again, because most of the flood is a bit rowdy. I don't think senators are actually getting what you are saying, because what you are saying touches also on life.
Yes, sir.
It touches on life.
Yes, sir.
And the possibility of Nigerians inhaling poisonous products under the guise of diesel. So start your motion again so that the senators can pay attention. And most senators will not have the motion in their hands.
Take the fantastic.
So the minority leader.
Once again, my name is Asukwe Ekpenyong, Senator representing Cross River South.
Yes.
The motion before us is the urgent need to investigate the continued importation of hazardous petroleum products and dumping of substandard diesel into Nigeria. The Senate notes with deep concern the continued importation of hazardous petroleum products and dumping of substandard diesel into Nigeria. It observes that on the 16th of June 2024, it was reported that 12 diesel cargoes conveying a total of 660 KT of diesel was exported by foreign refineries to offshore Lome, Togo, for further distribution to West African markets, mainly Nigeria. Also notes that the quality of the said diesel is below the Nigerian standard in terms of flash and sulfur levels. In spite of the substandard nature of the diesel, it has found its way into the Nigerian market as a truck on MT Carlos, which arrived Lome on the 16th of June, which immediately did a ship-to-ship transfer to DVMT Matriarch Triumph, and then proceeded to discharge into Matriarch Jetty in Warri on the 21st of June 2024. Thereafter, another ship-to-ship transfer was made to DVMT Matriarch Prime, which then proceeded to discharge into Obat Oil Terminal on the 22nd of June 2024. The Senate further notes that the stock of diesel in contention is priced below the fair market value, which constitutes dumping on the World Trade Organization rules, which stipulates that countries are permitted to take measures to protect their local industries in the event of dumping. The World Trade Organization also recognizes the impact of dumping on domestic industries and therefore stipulates tariff regimes such as anti-dumping duties and import restriction measures to ensure that domestic producers are not unfairly disadvantaged. Aware that even though the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has recently revised the standards of diesel importation into Nigeria in line with the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, it is apparent that they are incapable of enforcing compliance with the standards. Also aware that NNPCL has persistently continued to issue import licenses for diesel and jet fuel despite sufficient local production capacity. Therefore, the best option for protecting Nigerians and our local refineries against dumping may be to place a ban on the importation of diesel as long as our local refineries can meet the Nigerian demands. We are further aware that this proposed ban on importation of diesel will be beneficial to the Nigerian petroleum industry and indeed the entire nation. The Senate observes that the inability to inaugurate modular refineries as well as get existing refineries to be fully functional to discharge their function to meet local demands for clean petroleum products would make Nigeria a dump site for dirty fuel. Concerned that importation of substandard diesel has both human and mechanical consequences, as toxic emissions from the diesel contribute to respiratory illnesses and other health issues, as well as degrade engine life that would force consumers to deal with frequent vehicle and generator breakdowns with attendant higher maintenance costs. Also concerned that local refineries cannot compete favorably if there is no adequate protection and regulation against dumping, and this will undermine the growth and sustainability of the domestic refineries, thereby leading to job losses and economic downturn. Further concerned that the influx of substandard diesel can have long-term environmental consequences, as low-quality fuel leads to higher levels of pollutants being released into the atmosphere, leading to adverse effects on our climate and degrading our local ecosystem. The Senate accordingly resolves to set up an ad hoc committee to A. Examine the pre-shipment and pre-discharge standard test parameters adopted by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority with a view to uncovering loopholes, if any, exploited to get toxic cargoes into our country. B. Determine the level of compliance of the NNPCL's direct sale and direct purchase arrangements in line with the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, including the extent of transparency and accountability in the scheme. C. Being the legislative searchlight on the activities of the Petroleum Equalization Fund, including payments made to transporters in the last 10 years. D. Inquire from the NNPCL the status of the 22 depots built by the NNPC to eliminate road distribution of petroleum products. E. Engage with stakeholders within the oil and gas industry with a view to identifying possible gaps in regulating and strengthening the surveillance and monitoring structures in place to enable Nigeria to detect violations of best practice standards in the importation of products before they enter into domestic supply chains. F. Also engage with the NNPCL with a view to understanding the extent of its determination and timelines for the startup of government-funded oil refineries. And finally, G. Investigate how institutions across the importation and distribution chain failed to conduct quality sampling, shipping products without auditing, port validations by the Nigerian Customs Services, Department of Petroleum Resources, National Maritime Authority, and Standard Organizations of Nigeria. I so move.
That's my name. I represent the good people of Bayelsa East Senatorial District in Bayelsa State. I rise here to second the motion ably moved by Senator Asuko Ekpenyong on the need to investigate the importation of wrong, bad fuel, hazardous petrol, and bad diesel into the country. I so second, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
I want to appreciate my friend and brother, distinguished Senator Ekpenyong, for this very, very important motion. Read it through paragraph by paragraph. There is absolutely nothing to add. We do have saboteurs. Around the country, people blame politicians for all sorts of things that are not working well. Yet, we have people who are just appointees of government, who sabotage the laudable objective of Parliament. Mr. President, I watched in the news when you led a delegation to visit a Nigerian refinery that is capable of producing diesel of appropriate standard. The decision, therefore, by the management of that's paragraph 5, aware that NNPCL has persistently continued to issue import licenses of diesel, and yet, despite sufficient local production capacity. Mr. President, this is sabotage. Re-sabotage of the Nigerian nation. endangering jobs, good paying jobs of Nigerians who are working in these refineries to produce this product. The much advertised benefit of local refining, which NNPCL has used time and time again to pump all sorts of money into maintenance of Nigerian refineries. Now we have refineries that are working, and a Nigeria who believes in the future of our country at a time when the pressure on foreign exchange is so strong that the naira is promoted every day. A Nigeria find comfort in the words of this particular paragraph to continue to issue licenses for the importation of substandard, dangerous chemicals in the name of diesel. I agree absolutely that we need to have a strong, well-empaneled ad hoc committee to carry out thorough investigation and to investigate the leadership of the institution that is responsible for issuing these licenses. Mr. President, until we begin to punish, dismiss, and prosecute people who are undermining our collective well-being, we're going to smile away. I do not believe that these are errors of the head. I believe the gentleman or gentlemen involved in this are doing it on purpose to collect rents for their pocket and undermine the economy of Nigeria. Your visit to Lagos was very well appreciated because the parliament must see what is going on in different parts of the country. So I support this motion, and I plead with my colleague that in unison we should condemn the idea of importing diesel, which many of us, we have to agree we are part of the middle or ruling class now. We all have diesels in our house. We are being poisoned by the product being imported by someone or some persons who want to enrich their pocket. So I think this is one motion that all of us should adopt unanimously and empower the committee and give them all the political backing they need to do the needful, so that Nigeria will be better for it. Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to again thank, it is not just for you, it's not just for those workers, it's for our health, and as well as creating jobs and defending jobs of Nigerians. Thank you very much, sir.
Nasarawa West Senatorial District. While I align and support this all-important motion moved by my brother Senator Asuko, and the content of the motion is or are all encompassing, but permit me to say, sir, just two things. The relevant authorities or agencies mentioned here must be taken on by the Senate to ensure that all the nitty-gritty as far as the allegations are concerned are taken care of to forestall future occurrences. Secondly, to buttress what Senator Adams Oshomole said, we have a refinery today that is a legacy to Nigeria. Dangote refinery is a legacy to Nigeria. And Dangote refinery needs all the support from every facet of our polity, so that the needed and required maximum value or values that is supposed to be brought to the table should and must be brought to the table. And if that is done and other modular refineries are encouraged, and also this brings to bear the quantum of funds that have been put into rejuvenation or rehabilitation of our local government-owned refineries. Port Harcourt refinery has been there, so much funds have been injected, the commissioning dates have been, goalposts have been shifted from date to date to date. Private refineries are not encouraged. Dangote refinery is now struggling for crude oil, for it to be able to be as productive as it should be. This motion addresses virtually all the issues that have got to do, or the menace, so to say, that have got to do with the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we must all give the needed support beyond just contributing to the motion, but actions should be taken, on this matter as required. I so second and contribute.
Thank you. In fact, a lot of dates, startup, commencement, this, that, on Port Harcourt refinery, Warri refinery, Kaduna refinery, and over $3 billion, if not $4 billion expended. And then the last date we had was December for them to commence commercial operations, and then it just kept shifting and shifting, and billions are going in. And Nigeria is complaining, the people are suffering, and at the same time, we will not even be able to agree on minimum wage, and yet 3 refineries that are yet to work are governing billions and billions. We need to call them to account, and then the Senate must rise to the occasion to get the status. So I'm happy with this motion. It's all encompassing. We'll soon go into the prayers, but let me hear from one or two of our colleagues. The distinguished
Thank you, Mr. President, my colleagues. Sunday, Marshal Katun, I represent the people of Kaduna South Senatorial District. I rise to second this well laid out motion. The motion has been adequately argued. Justification for the investigation also clearly stated. The prayers are well defined. And because it is an investigative motion, Mr. President, I don't want us to preempt the issues. As justifiable as it is, I will urge that all of us support this motion and leave the investigative panel to come out with the results. Then we can come back and apply appropriate sanctions as recommended by the committee. That's the advice I want to proffer, that because it is an investigative motion, that we minimize the amount of argument, because all of us seem to be in sync and supportive of the motion. That is my kind advice, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
in line.
And I represent Bauchi Central. Mr. President, let me join you and others in commending Senator Asuku for a well-researched, eloquently delivered, brilliantly presented motion on this particular matter. It is important, Mr. President, to highlight the summary of this motion. And the summary of this motion precisely gives us the tragic history, the tragic history of Nigeria as a nation. As an oil-producing nation for 50 years or thereabout, this nation is still battling with the issue of auditing, the issue of sampling, and the issue of fault validation. In other climes across the world, these are given, but because we're a nation that has not shown any capacity, any seriousness, especially in this sector that we all depend on. And that's why we're having issues within the industry. Finally, Mr. President, if this is what the 10th Senate will achieve in its 4 years existence going forward, if this is the only thing that the 10th Senate will achieve, please, for God's sake, let's try to achieve it. Let's show Nigerians that is not business as usual. Let's understand the perception outside there. Let's do what you can do and do everything in the open to satisfy skeptics about the 10th Senate. It is important that we recognize the issues raised, and it is very imperative that once we can achieve the objective of this motion, I am sure history will recall the 10 senates as an achiever. It is important for those who will be in this other committee to understand Nigerians have a question mark about what we can do or we cannot do. But sufficiently, the Constitution has given us powers to be able to delve into issues like this and bring about positive change and positive transformation. I so move, and I think everybody should support this motion. It is not late in coming. It is imperative that we understand the dynamics as it is. It is important to make a difference, and it is important to show Nigerians that we meant what we said. Thank you very much.
Very distinguished colleague, Adiola Solomon Olamilekon, representing Ogun West Senatorial District in the Senate of Federal Republic. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, let me also join others in commending the mover of this motion. And Mr. President, let me start by saying that when we passed the Petroleum Industry Act, the main objective of passing that bill into law was to achieve one major thing, which is for us to unbundle the oil and gas sector. We did that successfully during the night Senate. We have an act in place that unbundled the entire oil and gas sector, with the hope and the belief that by unbundling this sector, the country will be better off than what we usually have in the past. And to that extent, we created a separate agencies under the upstream sector and the downstream sector. And also, we ensure that we have an NNPC that can compete favorably well with other oil and gas sector all over the world. But Mr. President, with this singular motion that is before us this afternoon, is a clear indication that it says what we hope to achieve by passing this act, this bill into law, we are not seeing it at all. Because in the body of the motion, it is clear that the only agency of the government that bringing this diesel or this petroleum product is only the NNPCL PLC or Limited. And if that is the case, I wonder how the same agency of the government will import into the country adulterated diesel. So this is a very serious allegation that I strongly believe demands a very, very strong committee and investigation to look into it. Mr. President, if you look at line by line of this motion that is before us, it is clear that even putting the date where each of these transactions takes place is enough for us to look into this sector, not only this motion alone, as you have said while sitting, that there have been promises upon promises that our refinery will come on board at so period, at so time, and billions of dollars has been spent on this refinery. Mr. President, I want to say that we demand that we need a major reform. Head must know in the Nigerian Petroleum Corporation and even other agencies of the government that are saddled with this responsibility. Because all these allegations is just one out of the numerous investigations we have to do in this sector. So I will be imploring that we should do an holistic investigation. Because by the time we start creating this motion at the committee level, there will be other issues that will come up. So we must mandate the committee that will be handling this to make sure, at least, because look at the challenges we have. There there are more information that is new to us that we cannot even share here. NNPC, Nigeria upstream and downstream needs to be investigated, and the investigation must be holistic. Nigeria must know the true position about these agencies of the government that have been saddled with the responsibility of running our oil and gas sector. Thank you, Mr. President. So submit.
And distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Mohamed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South. Mr. President, I stand up to support this motion. Our members, our distinguished colleagues have spoken adequately on it. But I want to commend the mover of the motion, first of all. This is displayed concern and capability because he's in that sector. One continues to wonder where a situation where our government built previously 4 refineries, all of them are down. To just maintain them, people have spoken so much about that. Secondly, Mr. President, what I just wanted to add to this very important motion, and even patriotic and urgent, is the fact that an individual in Nigeria was patriotic enough to build a refinery. And you have been there. I was not there.
You were there. I was not there. I swear I was not there.
I was not there.
You were there. I swear I was not there.
Having said that, Mr. President, he complained that if he had known that he would go through what he has gone through, he wouldn't have started that patriotic and giant project. Yet, he said he's not the person that gives up. He clearly said that the IOCs are frustrating his efforts. Last week or so, fire caught part of the refinery. But fortunately, it has not affected the refinery so much. But coming back to my question.
Point of order.
Okay.
Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also hope that you extend my time of contribution.
Extended.
Having said that, recently, the Dangote refinery started production of diesel. But he had to sell it out. He has to export it. Because he has to go through a process to supply, to make that supply, to make those the diesel available in Nigeria. So part of the investigation should be why one of our refineries is producing, but the market in Nigeria either is blocked, frustrated, or whatever. He has to go and sell it outside.
No, it's saturated with hazardous products from Russia. That's what the motion is all about.
You see, so they go and import adulterated diesel from Russia to Nigeria. Well,
Foreign.
okay, foreign. You see the mention.
Russian diesel.
So she hates a Russian. That's a very. Okay, whatever. The Senate President is. So, Mr. President.
Russia was not mentioned in the motion. So you just said foreign diesel.
Oh, foreign diesel.
Foreign diesel.
I was just copying from the President. Okay, foreign. Okay. So, Mr. President, I want to suggest the investigation as suggested by our colleagues should be holistic, very holistic, and that is to also to involve why somebody is producing diesel in the country and they had to go out to look for foreign market to sell the product. On the other hand, polluted or toxic diesel is being imported. into the same Nigeria? These are questions that the committee should actually find out, investigate, and as my chairman suggested, those involved should actually be brought to book so that this kind of thing that is going in and killing our country should not repeat itself. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have gone through this motion, and paragraph 3 of this motion showed that the mover of this motion has given us all the information, activity to activity, date by date. The implication of this thing, of this motion, especially in paragraph 3, is that it will definitely assist in real time the ad hoc committee that will be constituted. Mr. President, distinguished Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I just want to have a personal I just want to beg you personally that everything that the constituted ad hoc committee will require that will enable us get to the root of this unwholesome activity, that you must give all the necessary support to it, sir. This is an infraction, this is criminal, this is not in the interest of this country. And I beg you, and I beg you, and I beg you, we must see to the end of this infraction and this unwholesome activity, so that it will be a deterrent and it will teach others a major lesson. And I want to plead with you. Thank you, and thank you very much, sir.
This must sit day to day and bring the report back to us before we go on the long break. Because we can't just set up a committee that will sit ad infinitum. This is too important to the economy of the country. It's important to the health of the citizens of this country, and it is also important to job retention in the country and job creation. So we must look at these things, and like somebody said, even if this August Assembly has to make recommendation that some heads should rule within the petroleum industry, so be it. Leader of the Senate.
I begin by thanking you, Mr. President, for the privilege to also be able to take part in this very patriotic debate. And my contribution will be short, Mr. President. First, it is important that we make this clear to members of the Nigerian public that the concern of the Senate in this regard, it's primarily one about our economy, because we feel that in a situation where it looks like an economy is being held by the jugular, as elected representatives of the Nigerian people, we must stand up to be able to do the needful. Primarily as well, this is also about issues that border on public health. When hazardous petroleum products are imported into a country, diesel, jet fuel, and all that, it has three significant implications. One, negative impact on public health, which by extension leads to a reduction in the lifespan of the citizens of the country, whose health are negatively impacted on, especially their respiratory system. Number two, it also has significant impact on the environment. Number three, Mr. President, it's also about protection of properties. People struggle to save money to buy their cars. Some even buy these cars with bank loan. Companies struggle to buy official cars. Institutions, including government institutions, buy vehicles for official use. When less of a quality petroleum product is used, it leads to an destruction of the engines of these vehicles, including also its negative impact on our industrial sector. Diesel is used to run industrial machines. So when you bring in, substandard petrol or diesel, what you are also saying is that you are killing, those industrial machines, you are killing the industrial sector. So all of these are issues of significance that make it essential for us as a Senate to holistically look into these issues. Finally, Mr. President, if we have been told as a nation that our refineries were under repair and over $4 billion have been invested in this by government at different times, and we have been given different dates when these refineries will be up and running, and none of those dates had worked, I think it is important for us as elected representatives of the people to be able to bring NNPC and their contractors to ask the question, what is going on? When will these refineries be ready? And it's not just about completion of refineries, because that's a technical term, but come and tell the Nigerian people through us about the start-up dates for these refineries. These are issues, Mr. President, that we need to take into serious consideration. So I am totally in support of this motion, and I want to thank again the Civil Senator Asuku Ekpeyon for bringing the motion, and to emphasize that at the end of the day, as a nation, we must appreciate the fact that we are not safe until we are able to locally refine our crude. For as long as we continue to rely on importation, it will be difficult for even the regulatory framework, based on how it is set up, to be able to determine the quality of petroleum products that are imported. It is important that we get our local refineries to work. It's also essential that whichever local refinery that we have now must be saved from collapse and frustration. I thank you, Mr. President.
The issue of oil and gas in this country is something that we should not just take as business as usual. There are quite a lot of issues in this industry, and oil today has been the live wire of our economy. Virtually every sector, when you look at it, what happens in that industry has a lot of implication on the others. Today you can see the spike of cancer in this country is to do with the pollution we have in this country. The pollution is too high. Notwithstanding that, if we looked at the PIA itself, the Petroleum Industry Act itself, Mr. President, there is need for the National Assembly to take and have another look at that act. The powers arrogated to somebody is enormous, that a lot of things are not going right.
if we have unbundled NNPC, then some people should be held responsible for not doing what they're supposed to do. But we have unbundled NNPC, but also at the same time tie their hands and they cannot do anything. We have somebody that has been very courageous, just as the deputy leader said. Dangote established a refinery, and which is almost the biggest refinery today in the world. Nobody is encouraging him. Nothing is being done to encourage him. He has to go to the United States to buy crude oil. Our Nigerian crude oil is one of the best when it is refined. We have so many things in it. He will pay for this crude oil. He will not even get it as at when he wanted it. So what are we doing to ourselves? And we keep importing something that will kill us for the sake that few people want to make more money. So, Mr. President, my view is that it's not only to checkmate what is happening as by the importation of oil in this country, fuel in this country, but we should look at the PIA itself. We are past the PIA. Can we now tell Nigerians that, or can NNPC tell us that we have had more than $300 million investment in this country from the time that we have enacted that law to now? When a country like Gabon, Angola are having investments coming in, even Ghana here, for over $12 billion, and nothing is coming to Nigeria. I think there is need for us to look at the PIA, make the necessary review if we want our oil and gas industry to blossom. Thank you, Mr. President.
If the intention of unbundling the NNPC was to bring in more investment, then we have failed. I think what has happened is that even the names now are confusing. You call it NNPDRA, something, whatever. The Nigerian public is totally confused. And what? Senator Warada. So what Senator Sani Musa said is that even our neighboring country of Ghana gets over $10 billion to $12 billion worth of investment. But since we unbundled the names, we ended up arrogating more powers to certain individuals. But we also failed to unbundle the operators. So the same business goes. The business as usual. 3 refineries, over $4 billion sunk into it, and different dates of commitment: September 2023, December 2023, June 2024, July. Now they are saying the 3 of them will work simultaneously. July beginning, July ending, August, everything will work smoothly. We have 5 modular refineries going on. We have the one from Dangote, and then we are issuing licenses every day. As you open newspapers, you see licenses to bring in what? Diesel, bring in fuel, bring in this, bring in that. We are not even encouraging local production. America and many other countries do everything to protect their local production in order to save jobs. So this August Assembly must rise to the occasion. And I want to thank the mover of this motion, and to agree with Senator Olamileko that we may have to go into different aspects of this motion, not just doing this investigation alone, but we may have to go into even the issues of the Act, the PIA. We must look back at the PIA. We have a right as a parliament. Don't you have the right? We have the right to look back and see whether the thing is working for us or not. The prayers. I thank all my colleagues, and including those who have not yet contributed because of time. I thank you, and I know that you have the opportunity when the ad hoc committee will be meeting to make your contributions. And please, I'll urge the ad hoc committee to try to involve members of the public whenever they are sitting, and if they be, take their sittings live so that Nigerians will know that this is not about witch hunting, but it is about improving the economy of this country and saving the jobs of Nigerians. Prayer 1. Examine the pre-shipment and pre-discharge standard parameters adopted by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority with a view to uncovering loopholes, if any, exploited to get toxic cargoes into the Nigerian market. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. With the ad hoc committee, determine the level of compliance of the NNPCL's direct sale and direct purchase DSDP arrangements in line with the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, including the extent of transparency and accountability in the scheme. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. With the ad hoc committee being searchlight, legislative searchlight on the activities of the Petroleum Equalization Fund, including payments made to transporters in the last 10 years. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Inquire with the ad hoc committee from the NNPCL the state, the status of the 22 depots built by the NNPC in those days to pump petroleum products in order to eliminate road distribution of products across the country. What happened to those 22 depots? Those in support of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can have it as additional prayer, Senator Binosiaro. But if it's something urgent, say so.
The Senate President. Thank you, Binosiaro.